Hi all, in this video I want to talk about some basic Zoom controls. So we'll start with the security control here. This first button here locks a meeting. What that does is now no one else can join the meeting. Let's say you're 10 minutes in and you want to stop any new participants. You can click that, but at any point if you want to allow people to join, continue joining, you can uncheck and now participants can join your meeting. Next up is the waiting room. The waiting room is enabled. What that means is each time someone tries to join the meeting, you have to click allow participant to let them into your Zoom meeting. And then this is what the participants are allowed to do. Right now, they're just allowed to chat. They are not allowed to share screen. They're not allowed to rename themselves. You can check any of these to enable your participants to do more. Now for chat, you can get a little bit more specific. So let's go ahead and click on chat and then these three dots. What this does now is lets you pick how you want your participants to chat. If you don't want them to chat with anyone, you just click no one, and now your participants are not allowed to chat. You are still allowed to send messages to all your participants, but they would not be able to respond. If you click host only, that means you can send out a chat to everyone, and your participants can respond to you only. And then everyone publicly just means that all the chats are completely public. And then if you say everyone publicly and privately, then what your students can do is pick, like for example, a participant right now is student A. I can choose to privately just chat with student A. And as participants, when this option is selected, student A can talk to student B privately. So those are some options. I would recommend if you don't have any activities that require students to have side conversations, you can do a host only or public chat. Host only just makes sure that, like, let's say a student is having an issue and they can't hear you and their mic isn't working, they can send you a message in the chat and basically bring up their concerns. Next, let's go on to, so when I click on participants, this gives me some additional controls. I can mute all participants. Let's say there's some disruption in the middle of your class and you're not sure which student it is. You can just hit mute all and that will mute all your participants, the current and any new participants who join. You can also unmute all participants, but keep in mind this is going to notify your students and say the host would like you to unmute. Would you like to continue or not? So you're not forcing the unmute. This used to be such that it just unmuted everyone, but now Zoom has changed their settings to asking participants whether they want to unmute or not. Here are some additional options. I have my settings such that the participants are muted upon entry. Allowing participants to unmute themselves. Let's say you've unmuted everybody, or sorry, you've muted everyone, but you don't want them to unmute and continue disrupting. I can just click this. Now, your participants cannot unmute themselves. You have to physically go unmute. Let's say I want to unmute student A, I'll hit unmute, and the student can decide to unmute or stay muted. Now you might hear this feedback because I'm in the same room as student A. I can just quickly hit mute all and that should stop the disruptions. All right, what else? We talked about lock meeting, allow participants to rename themselves. If you don't want students to get creative naming themselves different names, you can uncheck this so they won't be able to rename themselves. So just as a summary, some important things. Oh, actually, one additional thing, the raise hand feature. So let's say a student in the meeting raises their hand and asks their question, but now they can't figure out how to lower their hand. So you have a bunch of students who've asked their questions. You can do one of two things. You can go here, hit lower all hands, or if it's just a specific student, you can go hover over the student's name and lower their hand individually. Let's see, did we cover everything? I think that about covers some of the basic controls. If you have further follow-up questions please leave these questions in the comments or suggestions for other things you'd like to learn how to use.